Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 246 Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Just before I introduce the teams, I'd just like to say, I guess there's a lot of ex-RTW players that watch these battles, and I'm just going to say, guys, if you still enjoy watching these battles and you'd like to maybe have an odd battle now and again, we play mostly Fridays and Saturday nights these days, so if you'd like to maybe come on to RTW Friday or Saturday nights, you might be able to get into one of our battles, and if the battle's good enough, you might even see yourself fighting on this channel. So if you'd like to come and see us on a Friday and Saturday night on RTW, it'd be great to see you. Okay, the team I'm in today consists of Brotherhood member Steve Longshanks, who's bought the Rome Julii army. And then we have Titans Hades. Now the Titans clan's a very good clan with really good players in it, but you don't see them play that much these days, so it's nice to see a Titans member in our team. And usually when we do see the Titans, they're usually on the other team, so it's nice to have a Titans member in the same team as myself. Our third team member is Greeks Cleomenes. Anybody notice anything a bit unusual here? Of course, as we know, the Greek clan's mission was to be the best clan with pikes on RTW, and to this end they practiced for hours and hours and hours until I think most people would agree the Greek clan was the best with pikes on RTW. So to see a Greek clansman bring in a Rome army is very unusual, and especially as Cleomenes is such a senior member of the Greeks clan, it's unusual to see him bring a Rome army. Should be interesting to see how well it does. And their fourth team member is myself, Spartan Commander, who has bought the Rome Julii faction. Now this army is an army I found in an old notebook that I made in about 2006, where I wrote down different armies with their upgrades and everything like that. So this army is from 2006. I've just made it now for this battle, so it'll be interesting to see how well it does on the modern day battlefield. You wait till you see the other team. This should be a classic battle for you to watch. At this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at Titans Hades' army here. If you notice there, he's got, I think it's about 12 or 13 infantry, 3 archers and 6 cavalry there. And this is an unusual, maybe low amount of infantry to bring to the modern day battlefield. But also I'd like you to look at his formation. Now when I saw this formation, I thought I was in a bit of a time warp, because this formation is exactly what I was using about 12 or 13 years ago on Rome Total War. The wide formation there with the pilot shield units in front, and the two flanks with a unit behind each of the forward units there, and the general in the middle. Is exactly how I used to do my formation, as I say, 12 or 13 years ago. So it'll be interesting to see how maybe an old-fashioned formation like this does on the modern day RTW battlefield. And here is the other team. We have the Chimera clan member Tamahak, who has bought the Rome SPQR faction. I believe the Chimera clan is the newest clan on Rome Total War. And then we have RTW player Mongo, who's bought the SPQR faction. Now it looks to me, looking at that army and formation, this is probably a well-known RTW player who's just changed his name for this particular battle there. As I say, it looks pretty good army to me, and he's changed his name to Mongo. Their third teammate is Chimera Bob, who I think you'll know him as Bubo, and he has bought the Seleucid faction here. And as you see there, it's got a good solid pike formation and pikemen there. I think it looks like about 12 or 13 pikes. He's got the Seleucid, obviously tank cavalry there. Let's have a close-up look at them. There you can see armoured from head to toe, and as I say, we call them the tanks of the ancient world. And then we've got the chariots. Now remember, the Seleucid chariots are very powerful. They've got a fear factor and can do a lot of damage, but they can run amok. Remember what we said in other battle videos about chariots that run amok? They're bad for both friend and foe alike. And their fourth teammate is Chimera Heraclius. Sorry, a bit difficult to pronounce. So there's the enemy team there. As I say, a lot of veterans will know what I mean when I say that if you play RTW a lot and you play with the same team members a lot, you become like a tight, cohesive team. knowing which you know, what each other's going to do before they almost do it. You become that familiar with their play. And I know the Chimera clan have been playing a lot together, and they've been playing as a team and RTW a lot, so we know that they're going to be pretty sharp for this game. And it'll be interesting to see how well they do as a team there. In contrary to us, who I think all of us probably just play Friday and Saturday nights now, we're kind of part-time players, or maybe even weekend warriors, as we call them, us. But as I say, we only play, as I say, mostly just Friday and Saturday nights now. So coming up against these guys who play a lot together, it should be an interesting battle for you to watch. Okay, at this very early stage of the battle here, you can see that the Seleucid general is advancing towards Cleomenes there, with his long pikes. Let's just pause the game for a second. Let's say you can see that Cleo there has got into range with his Roman infantry there, throwing loads and loads of pilers into the Seleucid formation there, obviously causing a lot of casualties to those Seleucid pikemen. And there's a close-up of those Seleucid long pikes there. That Cleomenes is kind of bordering on attacking there, but there's a lot of pilots going in there, causing a lot of damage to those Seleucid. Plus, Titan's Hades is probably concentrating his archer fire on those Seleucid pikemen as well. As we know, they're very susceptible to missile fire there. So we say in our very early stage of the battle there, you can see that there's in our left centre a bit of action going on there between the enemy Seleucid and our Scipioid ally there. As you can see, I'm moving my army forward towards the enemy SPQR general in front of me. So I say, if you play RTW a lot, you kind of get a sharpness to your game. But kind of when you don't play it a lot, like the Foreign R team, it'd be interesting to see whether we've lost that sharpness to our game there. As you can see there, Cleomenes is putting some of his units into Testudo, which is obviously the Roman tactic to slow down any pike attack on him. Nice little move there by Cleo. He's thrown loads of pilers in. I can see lots of dead Seleucid pikemen there, so that was a nice little move there by Cleo. And as you can see here on our left flank, the SPQR general's moving up to face my army. If you notice, Hades has brought some of his units over from the right centre over to our left centre there to assist and help Cleomenes' Scipioid army. Meanwhile, over here on our left flank, where my army is situated, you can see there's a couple of Seleucid cavalry moved out to the left, and the chariot unit as well. And if you notice that the SPQR cavalry facing me has moved forward a bit as well, almost like they're ready to attack my my army here on the left flank. But if you notice, my allies have brought over cavalry support as well, just in case there is an attack here on our left. Let's say this is a very, very early stage of the battle here, and as you can see, I think it's going to be an aggressive battle. I think right from the very beginning. Let's say Hades and Cleomenes there in our left centre, facing the Seleucid. Okay, let's just pause the game for a second. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I've decided that I'm going to go aggressive with my army. I'm going to do an aggressive flanking action here, round to the left flank. I'm looking to try and take a bit of pressure off my teammates there on that left centre there. And I'm thinking if I do an aggressive flanking attack there, it may well draw reinforcements away from this left centre. You see, my allies have got cavalry and infantry support there in that left centre and that right centre. And over on our far right flank there, you can see that there's not a lot going on. There's been a bit of skirmishing there, a bit of pilot exchanging, but not a lot going on over on our right flank. I'm very aware of the chariot and Seleucid cavalry out to my left as I'm doing this left flank in action, and that's why I'm taking my cavalry over to counter any attack from that direction. Let's say with this aggressive left flank in action here, I'm trying to harass and harangue them, trying to disrupt their battle line. What I'd like to do is turn their flank, if I can here, be an aggressor there. Can you see my teammate Hades charging his Scipioid cavalry in there? taking out a couple of their forward pilot shield units. Nice little hit there by I think it's Hades cavalry there. If you notice, I'm taking my infantry further and further around to that. As I say, I remember in this battle, I want to be aggressive. I want to try and, as I say, take the pressure off my teammates, and if possible, turn their flank here. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. As you can see here, moving around to the left with my cavalry as backup. My allies' cavalry is also assisting me there. Meanwhile, in our left centre, there's still some action going on, but over on our right flank here, you can see that Steve's advancing as well. Can you notice how he's brought his units up forward there? So at the moment, we're putting pressure on both of their flanks, hoping that they will then feel they need to feed out reinforcements from the centre area, therefore taking pressure off of our allies in the centre. If you notice with this aggressive attacking that I'm doing on the left flank here, I'm not doing big long movements, I'm moving in short movements. Just short aggressive movements here, backed up with my cavalry every step of the way. Let's say my aim here would be to turn their flank. Right, can you see how the enemy SPQR guy now is kind of turning, he's retreating in towards his allies there, which is what I want him to do as I've moved my infantry round. Let's say newer players watching this, flanking attacks can be very effective, but you need to make sure that you I would suggest moving short stages, backed up with your cavalry all the way. And when you know you've got good allies, it gives you confidence to do this as well. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. You see here, I've moved my infantry round to the left. I got back up with my enemy, with my allies' cavalry and some infantry units there as well. And over on our right flank here, can you see Steve is also being aggressive now? He's attacking with his cavalry and infantry here on the right flank. So as I say, at the moment our team is being aggressive on both flanks here. As I say, trying to take a bit of pressure off of the centre there, and hopefully they may well start feeding units out from the centre to their flanks. Right, okay, can you see what I wanted? I wanted to turn the enemy flank there, and that's what we've managed to achieve. I'm still keeping the pressure on, keep moving. Remember what we've talked about in the past about being aggressive. Keep the enemy on the back foot. Keep them reacting to your movements, not the other way round. And that's what we're doing here. Being aggressive, pushing all the time. Meanwhile, over on the right flank there, you can see that Steve's attacked with some cavalry units and infantry units here as well. Nice aggressive move there by Steve. As I say, this wasn't a plan that we hadn't pre-planned this. This is just actually happening as the battle unfolds here. So nice aggressive move there by Steve over on the right flank. See, attacking both flanks at the same time. You see, he gets the enemy thinking, well, in the centre, which way shall I go? Shall I go left? Shall I go right? And it kind of adds to the confusion of the battle there. Let's just pause the game for a second. So you can see Steve attacking aggressively. As I said, on the right you've got the enemy Seleucid cavalry coming over to assist their teammates here over on the right. In the right centre, not a lot going on at the moment. I think both generals there facing each other have sent units off to support other places on the battlefield. And in the left centre here you can see not a lot going on really, just a bit of skirmishing at the moment. Some units in Testudo, and the Seleucid general there is probably keeping half an eye on what I'm doing, getting in behind his units there. So being aggressive and attacking makes their whole team have to keep half an eye on your aggression, seeing what you're doing, where you're going, and so they can't concentrate 100% on their own front. Right, as you can see here, I'm really going for this aggressive attack here. Meanwhile, right over on our right flank here, as I say, Steve's really being aggressive. Right, can you see Hades' Scipio cavalry charging in? And bang, as that cavalry hits. Right, can you see the enemy SPQR cavalry and enemy tank Seleucid cavalry charging in as well? And bang, as that cavalry goes in. What a massive cavalry and infantry battle here on the right flank. What I feel here is maybe whoever wins on this right flank, this could be pivotal to who is going to go on to win the battle. And I think maybe both teams realise that, because there's so many reinforcements going in from both teams. As we move up a little bit here, you can see that the right centre is not a lot going on, and as I say, in the left centre not a lot going on. But over on the left flank here, if you notice, I'm charging my cavalry in. Can you guess what I'm going for? Yep, I'm going for that SBQR general. I'm going to try and hit him in the flank as I'm moving my infantry round. Can you see my allies, Scipii cavalry, have charged in already, making inroads into the enemy troops. Right, as you can see, my cavalry charging in. I'm going for that SBQR general. Bang, as I hit that SBQR general from the flank. Okay, can you see that I've routed that general now? So as we said in other battle videos, all that SBQR army's morale is going to lower. I've got my allies, Scipii infantry and cavalry in there as well. Meanwhile, over on our right flank here, you can see that massive cavalry and infantry battle still going on. There's some enemy cavalry units have been routed there. As I say, with the action going on both flanks at the same time, it's kind of difficult getting all the action for you. Trying to go from one flank to the other to show you what's actually happening here. So as you can see, there's a massive kind of trench warfare battle going on here on the right flank there. So it'll be interesting to see what actually happens here. I can see a lot of the enemy SBQR units starting to rout now. So as I say, it could well be pivotal whoever wins on this right flank. Let's say in the centre, not a lot going on. And meanwhile, over on our left flank here, we're still charging through there. If you notice, I'm running my infantry formation in behind the enemy ranks now. I've got actually all the way round behind them. Right, now I'm just going to pause the game here to explain something. Now, a lot of you might think, right, we know that the weakest part of any unit in RTW is the flank, but especially the rear. So why don't I charge my infantry into the rear of those pikes? Well, the reason for that is because those pikes are not being pinned at the front by any of our friendly units. So the moment I charge my infantry in, all the Seleucid general would do is turn his pikemen facing me, and I would then be facing long pikemen with my Roman infantry, which I don't want, but the Seleucid general probably would. So I don't want to hit there because, as I say, they're not being pinned at the front. They would just turn to face me, and I would be taking pikes head on. So what I'm aiming to do is to go over as far as I can over to the right flank and help Steve, so we can finish them off over there, and then maybe come back over here to take on the Seleucid units there. You see, Cleo's got some of his infantry over there as well, mopping up what was left of the SBQR infantry. But I just wanted to explain that why I'm not going into the back of those Seleucid pikemen. I'm going to go over to help Steve. I don't want to get bogged down fighting pikemen head on at this stage of the battle. Right, can you see the Seleucid general's done exactly what he said he would do? He's turned his pikemen to face where I was going. Meanwhile, over on our right flank here, you can see that Hades, our Scipii ally, and Steve with his Julii infantry and cavalry there are making good progress there on our right flank. Let's say I'm taking my infantry. I've got right round behind the enemy team now with my infantry and cavalry. But as I say, I'm going to move over to Steve. Let's try and finish off the enemy SBQR infantry over there. Steve and me between us, we might be able to sandwich them. And maybe secure that right flank of ours. Right, just going to pause the game for a second. As you can see there, over on our left flank here, Cleo's still got some units that he's attacking the enemy SBQR cavalry and all those Seleucid pikemen and some rallied enemy units there on our left flank. They see the enemy seems to have done quite well there with that Seleucid army and the remnants of the SBQR army. But over on our right flank here, Steve and Hades have done extremely well in taking out the enemy SBQR units in that part of the battlefield. As I say, I'm moving my infantry over there to try and assist them, with a view to try and finish off the enemy on that flank, and then we'll turn to face the Seleucid and what's left of the SBQR. Right, if you were in charge of my cavalry now, where would you charge them? Maybe into the back of that SBQR general? Now that would be a good target, wouldn't it? Take that general out? Or maybe that Seleucid cavalry would come over, and I don't really want to get tangled with the Seleucid cavalry, so maybe that might not be an option. Maybe go over and help Cleo over there against the SBQR cavalry, but there's a lot of Seleucid pikes there. So let's see where I decide to actually go with that cavalry. Okay, I've noticed there's a bunch of SBQR infantry fighting Steve's Julia says I'm going to charge my cavalry and infantry into helping to take out the last of those SPQR fighting units there, over here on our right flank. Right, so we've managed to do that now. Now if you notice, I've done that with my cavalry, but I'm now turning my infantry to face the enemy now that is moving towards us. Mostly Seleucid pikemen there, but there are some SPQR, enemy SPQR units as well. So we're kind of going into phase 2 of the battle now. It's kind of like we're regrouping, rallying, and getting ready for the next phase of the battle. But as I say, not too keen on taking pikemen on head on, as we've talked about in other battles. Right, let's just pause again for a second. As I say here, we've got some of our allies' Scipio units left. We've got Steve's army, my army there. But if you notice, the enemy have got a massive cavalry advantage here. All that cavalry, yes, it's battle damage, but there's still strength in all that cavalry. And I think out of all of us that's left, I think it's just me that's got my cavalry left. And all my cavalry is very battle damaged as well. But as you can see, the enemy have got a definite cavalry advantage at this stage. So we have to watch that left flank of my my infantry there. Okay. If you notice that Steve's moving his Julii army over to the right of my formation here, probably with a view to try and get round the flank or the rear of that Seleucid, those Seleucid pikemen there. Right, can you see here, Cleomenes with some of his units have intercepted some of the SPQR units that's trying to make its way over to their formation there. Nice little interception there by Cleo there. And if you notice, I'm bringing my cavalry over to help finish those couple of units off, which we've managed to do now. So that's 2 more units we haven't got to bother about. If you notice now that the enemy are trying to flank my my Julii army there. So I'm going to hopefully spot that and turn my army to face them. Yeah, as you can see, I'm moving my army. If you notice that Hades is taking some of his Scipio units out to that left flank. And there's a lot of enemy cavalry going into that into his Scipio infantry at this time. So if you notice, I'm running my infantry forward to kind of intercept those enemy troops there. Probably with a view to try and hit them before they can settle. If I can actually attack them before they get into formation, that would be a big advantage for us. Right, if you notice that Steve's moving his Julii army round to the right here. Now my guess is Steve, being very tactical, very good tactical player there, is going to take his infantry round the rear of those Seleucid pikes. Right, let's just pause the game for a second to take stock of exactly what's happening. As I say, Steve looks like he's going to take his units round to the right there. To get in behind the enemy. What I'm going to try and do is pin the enemy infantry with my infantry, allowing Steve to hopefully move round behind and hit them from the rear. A hammer and anvil attack, if you like, with infantry. If you notice, I've got my cavalry stood out there at the rear, ready to throw in if needed. Right, okay, I've spotted some SPQR units on the end of their battle line there, which I'm going to try and hit and rout. But by doing that, maybe I've made a bit of a mistake here, because I've exposed my cavalry to the enemy Seleucid cavalry attack and the enemy SPQR cavalry attack there. Now, make no mistake, if my cavalry is routed there, then I think that the enemy cavalry would get in behind us, and it would put us in a really bad position there. You see, I'm pulling my cavalry back. If you notice that our Scipio ally is moving infantry forward as well to support us on that flank. Let's say Steve's attacking over on the right there, trying to get in behind the enemy team there. But I'm a bit worried now that cavalry is going to go into the rear of my engaged infantry. So I'm going to try and attack it. I'm going to try and hit them head on. You see my Scipio allies move some infantry out there. He spotted the danger as well. Right, can you see all that SPQR cavalry charging into the flank of my engaged infantry there? And like I said at the beginning of this battle, this is a very old army from 10 years ago, but it's got good upgrades. And do you see how my infantry's holding? I think if that was just gold infantry, my infantry would have routed it. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. As I say, with that SPQR cavalry charging into the flank of my engaged troops there, if they were just gold, I think they probably would have routed. But because they've got good upgrades on, they're holding against that hit. All my troops are tired there, so as I say, I think if they would just go gold, they would have routed. Right here, you can see that I've got some battle damaged cavalry units and my allies' Scipio infantry units coming over to help against that cavalry hit. And as you can see, Steve is moving around to the right. He's managed to rout the SBQR general, and he's doing a really great tactical move there, getting in behind those Seleucid pikemen there. As I say, Steve's always been a good tactical player. As I say, that Seleucid cavalry and SBQR cavalry there, if they manage to beat us on this flank, then they can get in behind us, so we just hope we can manage to hold there.
The enemy general is slain, and now his men fear us. It is time to press the attack.
As you can see, Steve's attacking. Let's say I was like kind of the pinning force there, the holding force there, where Steve got in behind them. Nice, as I say, nice moves there by the team. And it looks like our team's managed to go on to win the battle there. As you can see, the piles are dead from one side of the battlefield to the other, just to show how intense it is. This is our right flank there. You can see how many dead was there. Right, the first thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game. As I say, it was an average victory there, but I'd just like to draw your attention to the size of my army. Can you see my army is the smallest army on the battlefield by a long way as well? But if you notice that I was lucky enough to get the highest kills. So it goes to show, maybe it's not the size of the army that you bring, but how you use it that that is important on in an RTW battle. I'd like to say really well done to the Chimera clan and Mongo. As we know, the Chimera clan is the newest clan on RTW, and they are very good players. And as I say, they play together a lot. And as I say, our team really, I think, are just kind of weekend warriors. I think we just kind of play on a Friday and Saturday night, so we didn't do too bad against players that play regularly there. So really well done to the other team. And I'd like to say really well done to Steve, Greeks Cleomenes and Titans Hades. Really great teammates and really well played, guys. Some really great moves in that battle. I just hope I managed to get everything that I could. This Spartan Commander saying goodbye for now.